Delegation, do you want to give us a brief overview of the bios of our players for those just joining us?
Absolutely. So, Pooh and Intense. Pooh has
Otherwise
been
known as
pretty
Intense
active.
Poo by the chat, just so you know.
That's right. Uh, he started playing competitively a year after the release. He had a top 16 finish in the GeForce Amateur 4,000-man bracket and a top 16 Team Liquid Open finish, and didn't really do a whole lot for the rest of Wings of Liberty. Had some school and some illnesses that prevented him from playing. So last year he took off from school and got back into playing, got back into practicing, rebuilt his skills, and was doing practicing in the Complexity Daily in-houses. After the house closed down, he ended up joining the academy and playing at a relatively high skill level in Heart of the Swarm. Has achieved Grandmaster in every season and placed fairly well in some individual lands. Has different top 8 and 4 finishes in different qualifiers and tournaments, and most recently placed top 4 in the CSL Collegiate All-Star Tournament. And he describes his playstyle as being able to go back and forth between gimmicks, cheese, greed, and also safe strategies, so his opponents never really know what he's going to pull out at any given time. But he feels like his strengths are in the longer games, and he is a very unpredictable player in any Protoss style. He said he got socks for Christmas, and he has a cute dog. So, Intense, from TtSEED, is Andrew Pirelli. He's a 16-year-old Terran player, and he has a very consistent macro-oriented style. He says he rarely opens with fewer than 3 bases, and he's been playing StarCraft 2 since its release. He formerly played for Clarity Gaming and alongside many of his opponents this evening. So he hopes that the show match goes long enough for him to play, and that does in fact have happened. So we will be going into Fruitland between Pooh and Intense.
Yes, as the map is loading. This is a goofy map, fun to see, so we'll see what these players can do. This has been a much hyped match by the chat. It's already been given about 5 different hashtags, so we will see if these players can live up to the hype. And in the upper right-hand corner, representing Root Seed, it is the Terran player, Intense.
And in the bottom left-hand corner, representing Clarity Gaming, again, going to try and seal that victory up. Haven't been able to the past 2 games, but in the red Protoss, it is Pooh.
I do expect this to be certainly one of our best matches. As I mentioned previously, I've been watching Intense's stream a bit. If I had the link, I would definitely tell you, because it's pretty cool. He's a cool chap, fun to watch for a Terran player. And we have casted many games of Pooh before, so we know what we can expect out of him, and it is great things, so this will be an exciting match.
It certainly will. And, we haven't seen a lot of PvT tonight, so it's nice change of pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And Troy also saying this will be an intense Pooh on a weird map, so everybody buckle up.
Buckle up indeed. Put on those adult diapers, because we are in for a long one here.
And one thing I've seen Intense do on his stream, which he's not doing now sometimes, is go for the double supply depot with the ramp with the barracks a little farther back, but maybe he's just trying to keep the scout out of his Protoss opponent here, but we will see as the Chrono Boost is going down for Mr. Pooh. As gas is finishing up, he will be putting probes in that. Gateway is in progress.
Back in the Terran front, that barracks is getting ready to finish up. It is rallied way across the map, so it looks like he's probably going to be doing some early aggression with that. No gas yet, but he is starting to mine, so it's possible we'll see a Reaper out of there.
We've got some more chat interesting this going on. CD Fruit will create Intense Pooh. It's kind of a given. Yep. And we do thank you for interacting with us in the chat. Do take a moment, go to Twitter, follow us at WingNetSC, at Gallegation, and also follow at SC2CTL to get updates on upcoming events like this that SC2CTL will be hosted, casted by us, organized by our brave leader, Troy.
That is right. So we do see that Reaper about halfway done. Going across the map, there's an SCV going to go scout what the damage can be done. But it looks like Pooh is kind of doing some fairly contained building here. Wants to try and limit the number of ways to get into his mineral line.
This Zealot is going to go on a collision course with the SCV, but the SCV does do a dramatic juke to the left to evade that Zealot. Stalker is being chrono boosted out to deny any further scouting, and we've seen Pooh move out quite a bit with this single Zealot, one Stalker Mothership Core, and do quite a bit of damage in the past, so we'll have to see how Intense sets up to deal with it. He does only have one Reaper and producing a, what looks like a reactor now, so he's going to be making them 2 at a time or Marines, but you know the aggression from Pooh is going to be coming right now.
That's right, and that's why he kept that Reaper back at home. He can micro that Zealot all day long and has no problems doing it. So the Zealot is going to start trying to target that SCV, again, to no avail.
He does get the shields down on the Zealot so far. Zealot is still trying to get the SCV down, delay that bunker as much as possible to allow the Mothership Core and Stalker to get up here. And he is going to be able to do that, so that Zealot being very successful so far. Now the Stalker and Mothership Core will be able to deal with that Reaper very easily, also negating the expansion of Intense. So far Pooh's aggression being super cool.
That's right, and oh, great time warp there. Pooh is just being really commanding this game so far. Intense doesn't have much of anything to deal with this. The SCVs do move forward, are able to take out that Zealot. Marines are coming out, and it looks like they're going to try and take that Mothership Core down. It's running for its life. Is it going to get out? No, it does not, but 2 Stalkers are there, and they are going to continue this aggression.
Yeah, this number of Marines is going to be really hard to deal with, or hard to deal against these Stalkers, as the Stalkers can kind of micro back and do quite a bit of damage here. One Stalker getting quite low. He needs to get that back to the back. Oh, looks like a little bit of missed micro there. Does spell the end of the one Stalker, but the second is going to just kind of hang out there to remain doing his annoying damage. The bunker does finish, so now this will be the intent of the aggression for Pooh, but what damage. Amaze. Wow.
Yeah, you know, he's really microing that single Stalker. 5 kills on that one Stalker, and he really pushed it to the limit. I mean, that bunker's down, there's things in it, and he's still kind of poking at the front there, trying to do as much damage as he can, while in the meanwhile getting his Nexus back home to continue this macro.
And Pooh is perfectly happy to just go on that, kind of hang back, and now switch into that macro style, as you mentioned, getting his expansion down, while Intense now has a lot to deal with. I mean, he does have this small army here is pushing back the single Stalker, but it's really slowing down the push that it seemed like Intense wanted to make.
It's absolutely true, and that Stalker's continuing to try and do some damage. Does get picked off, and those Marines are satisfied with that. They're going to head on home. And, you know, he gave the impression to Pooh that he might be moving out with that, so he's got to think about what's going to go on back at home in terms of defense.
Yeah, Warp Gate did just finish, so he would be able to warp in a few units to deal with that, putting on a cannon as his Nexus finishes to assist in any defense. So we are going to see a little bit of normalization here, as Intense is now up to 3 barracks with Stim coming down, Marines being produced 2 at a time, so Intense is going to get a fairly big army here relatively quickly, but Pooh is going to be probably going for the upgrade series. He does have his forge done, second base done, and now sending some probes on down there.
One of the interesting things about this game thus far is that Pooh, while he did do a lot of damage and only lost 4 units to the 11 that he killed from Intense, the resources lost is actually in Intense's favor because the units that Pooh lost were so expensive compared to the 50 mineral merc.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the gas of losing both of those Stalkers as well as that Mothership Core, not to mention not only the gas but the energy lost. I mean, he is not going to have that at a time now when Intense is going to want to make a push to be able to do a photon overcharge or other such things.
That is correct, but Pooh's Mothership Core is just kind of going for a stroll on the left-hand side of the map, going to try and figure out if there's anything going on that is a little bit deviating from the norm, anything that's trying to be hidden. So far hasn't found anything and is just kind of chilling by itself out in the middle of nowhere.
Looks like we had quite a bit of a supply block there for Intense for quite a few seconds, as he had all 3 barracks were kind of stalled there in production. So we'll see if that turns out to be a factor, but Pooh now with that is still just barely behind in the food count, 52 to 54. But we'll have to see what tech traits he does come out with, as the armor upgrade is going down and Templar Archives going down as well. So this is definitely one of my favorite builds. Favorite, as Storm is just so powerful against Terran. So to see what if Intense scouts it soon enough. I mean, if Intense can scout it soon enough and get the ghosts out, get the things he needs, then it won't be as terrible for him. But if he doesn't, and those Templar are more of a surprise, then that is just going to be that's going to spell some disaster. The Storm is going down immediately.
And Intense is streaming across the map with infantry. He's going to try and disrupt the plans of Pooh to any extent that he can, similar to what Pooh was doing about 4 minutes ago.
And Intense does have a significant army here, especially with stim being done. He has no medevacs, but if he can come up here and just do one good stim, he can take out quite a bit. Oh, nice force fields by Pooh, splitting up the army. So now Photon Overcharge goes down, is going to poke away at those Marines. Micro coming out is just great from Pooh, dealing a lot of damage, but this is going to be a lot of bio coming in.
It definitely is, but one of the great things about those force fields is they've frankly disallowed a lot of the power from those that first stim. It's just still not enough. He's got the Photon Overcharge going down, but these Marauders are doing crazy amounts of damage. That Mothership Core does fall. This Nexus is almost certain to go as he's able to micro that.
That is pushed away, but Intense definitely does the damage that Pooh did to him earlier in the game, and it doubles down on it a bit as 12 workers were killed. So very significant. I mean, that is the price you pay for going for that fast Storm like that. He does have 3 Templar. Going to go ahead and make an Archon because Storm is done, but doesn't quite have the energy on those, and he needs to defend right now. Oof. Oh, great Storm goes down on those few units.
And great split there after the fact by Intense. Trying to lure out what he can, bait any more storms to kind of soak up that energy, but these units are incredibly hurt, and they are going to drop like flies against anything that would put up a fight against them.
And 2 Marauders are going to go ahead and lead the pack here as they have the highest amount of hit points as the other units have been stimmed to all oblivion. And
he's just trying to get whatever pot shots he can against that Nexus. He really wants to try and get that down. Doesn't want to abandon this front until he's able to do so.
Yeah, Concussive Shells is about half done, so once that finishes, that will help out quite a bit against these Zealots as their numbers are growing. But, you know, he knows Storm is there. One Storm could kill half of this army easy, and there it goes, and half that army does go down.
He stims to get out of there, only hurting his forces a little bit more, but he does manage to save the small remnant of what's there. Yep. Medevacs are on the way to try and heal up those wounds, but he's going to have to take a minute to regroup before he wants to push again.
Yeah, looking at the production tab is all kinds of large for Intense. He's got that macro going on now with his starport and the reactor, producing those medevacs, heading across the map, actually boosting to get to his army. They are sending out the beacon for assistance.
And there's a probe kind of going across the map, seeing what is down there, going to block the third base with a pylon, has a pylon on the left side as well, is really just trying to do whatever disruption it can while gaining as much information it can as well.
Intense is putting down a third command center in his base, while Pooh does have a Nexus going down at the third expansion as well, so both players could potentially get a third going down at the same time, while 2 medevacs are heading into the main of Pooh. He does not have much here to deal with this. He has 1 Templar, but not quite enough energy for Storm. Oh, he does have enough energy now, and does the Storm. Does a lot of damage there, but still loads up into the medevacs, saving quite a few, so he's going to be able to continue this.
Yeah, ultimately, Intense only lost 1 unit in that engagement, and there's really not a whole lot. The feedback does go down, but doesn't quite kill the medevac. That's what he was kind of hoping for, and sure enough, continues to drop. That High Templar was tried to be picked off. It looks like the Photon Overcharge goes down and is going to be able to fend the rest of that off, but, you know, a decent poke there.
And Intense was beginning to rally his forces into the third base of Pooh, but seeing that there was a decent force there, he did move them on back, and he's going to be, it looks like, regrouping as simultaneous upgrades are going to finish for Pooh and Intense. However, Pooh's are going to be level 2.
So we now have 10 High Templars on the field. They are building that energy up, so these drops are going to become less and less efficient as they can feed back and storm to their heart's content. But you don't want to be too greedy with those either, as that energy does not come back very quickly.
Ghost Tech is down for Intense, and Mobius Reactor is being researched, so he's going to be beginning to produce those ghosts right away so that he can deal with this. But 5 medevacs going to storm into Pooh's base. Immediate feedbacks go down, but does not kill any of them. Does a bit of damage, but the huge drop. Single storm goes down, doesn't hit many of the units. Nice spread here by Intense, doing a lot of damage to the main base. It's going to easily be able to take out this Nexus if he targets it down, which now he begins to do.
Another storm goes down, doesn't hit a whole lot there, trying to focus down these medevacs, but he does have a huge problem with all of these Marauders in his base. Mothership Core is doing what it can, but it eventually gets killed, and Intense kind of isn't having anything to show him what's what here. He's kind of going unabased into this base.
Yeah, Intense was doing some great pre-splitting of his units. Right before a storm would hit, he'd do this great split, and that's what's really aided the longevity of this push, and now he's going to actually be able to focus the Nexus down after dealing with all of the forces that Pooh decided to bring in. And looking at the units killed, I mean, that evens out the units killed, but workers killed now 21-9 for Intense.
And some might say that those medevacs were a little bit late to the party in terms of when they were produced, but that was a very intentional play by Intense, so that they didn't have too much energy when he wanted to make this push so that they could be feedbacked right away and immediately killed. Those medevacs did take some damage, but they weren't taking enough damage in order to immediately destroy them, which
Pooh does have a small
increased.
force of Zealots here in the third base of Intense, trying to take out as many SCVs as possible. 2 Marines and a Marauder do end up taking them out, but not before killing about 5 or 6 SCVs. But now, oh my gosh, the SCVs are just kind of hanging out there as Intense is pushing into the main bases of Pooh.
Pooh is trying to come from multiple angles here, but that factory placement is definitely favoring Intense. He's trying to zone out whatever units he can. Great simultaneous storms there, but more stims. Wow, another great storm. Those units are so close to being dead. Trying to kill out anything that can possibly be killed here. Those High Templar run out of energy. They're being forced into Archons, but again, Intense's army just seems just immortal here.
Yeah, really a couple whiff storms there by Pooh were really the difference in the engagement. If those 2 storms that landed mostly on Pooh's army instead of Intense's would have landed on the group of bio that was there, that would have spelled the end for that push, but it was able to continue because of that. Now he's going to push on back with those Marauders that are there, using the concussive shells to slow down and be able to just pick away at the Zealot force.
And that factory's paying for itself with even flaming and about dead. It is still trying to soak up any damage it can away from the army, and it does its job. It goes down in a fiery death. There are some High Templars on the field, but they've only been warped in fairly recently, so their energy is very low. At most, he's going to be able to get 1 storm off, so he really does not want to lose or miff that up.
These medevacs paying for themselves many times over for Intense here as he's continuing this push. Storm does go down, but amazing split by Intense once again. Second storm goes down, does do a bit more damage to those Marines, but still the Marauders are left with so many medevacs. He is going to lift up and move out just as another storm goes down. So Intense, the story here in these battles is just his premonition on these storms.
Yeah, he's really done a great job of trying to bait them out with different units and then immediately splitting them, keeping his medevacs alive and low energy enough so that they're not able to be feedbacked, and these Marauders are just doing huge damage.
Yeah, I mean, Intense here is definitely powering up, and he's got the 3 bases. 4th is flying out, but there's a pylon at the 4th base that he's going to want to take. He is sending out a few workers there, is going to have to deal with that before he puts that down, but there's another small force of Zealots moving into Intense's 3rd base, but he's going to easily be able to take that out as his army is right there.
But in the perspective 4th base of Intense,
there's going to be a storm drop coming into the 3rd base. Templar do come out. 1 storm goes down. Not enough energy on the 2nd Templar to storm, unfortunately.
So it looks like he's warping in a couple of Zealots to finish off the job that he wasn't able to do. In the meantime, Intense is pushing again on that 3rd base of Pooh. More storms going down on the Ghosts, and the Ghosts are taking heavy damage.
Yeah, that was not the ideal storm there for Intense, but he's doing these immaculate splits. This is something he is very good at. Archon's taking up the front lines there, but they are taking a lot of damage to those Marines, which do huge amounts. Continuing to warp in units to try and push this back. Those medevacs healing as fast as units are hit.
And snipes are going down, trying to take out these Zealots quicker than they can do the damage that they are intended to do. These Ghosts are very low in health and energy. Storm goes down. Again, not a great storm, but does take some units. Again, not a great storm. But these units are doing whatever they can. Pooh is really trying to deal with these. He's got to be getting frustrated, and more Marines and Marauders show up from Intense. Pooh's just getting battered here.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be the beginning of the end for Pooh here, as the forces of, Pooh has had the forces to just kind of hang in there and hold it back, but now Intense moving in for the jugular here as he's got a great concave on this unattended base now, but he does know that there's a 4th here. He's going to just stop that before it even starts and going to have a huge advantage.
And these probes are dead.
GG, well played.
So even if this show match, if we hadn't decided to play all the games, the show match is now equal, 3-3. And I mean, we've seen many teams go down 3-0, and then they come back and they are able to win 4 in a row. And we are on the precipice of that potentiality right now.
That's a big word there, sir. But yes, it seems like, since this has happened to us several times, every time there's a 3-0, we're like, oh, everybody's going to be thinking it's over. But every time we talk about the fact that they could come back, they actually do come back.
It does happen quite frequently.
So we're going to take a break here real quick. We'll talk about this game for a few minutes when we come back while the next lobby is set up. The next match is going to be up in the air, as it is the ace match. So both teams will be selecting a player, and we will see what happens.